Alrighty, welcome everyone. I've changed the sing. Oh yeah, you'll just see me. I've changed the scenery. We're going to face the other way. So welcome to the balcony. This is the balcony view. Tonight's class, which is our masterclass, so we're in February. I can see you all scrolling in. Welcome everyone. It's nice because the camera is a little closer to me, so I can actually read all the comments. It's called All About the Back. So we have 4 weeks of looking at poses that do a couple of things for the back. They strengthen the back, because we know that we have to strengthen, but we also have to lengthen. Okay. We also have to have mobility. Okay, so we need to have range of motion, and we also have to be able to maneuver, to be mobile. So in saying that, the back moves. The spine is quite an interesting structure, and a jointed structure that moves in lots and lots of different directions. So for one of those reasons, it's often why it's a dodgy kind of structure. It goes into flexion. I'm giving you a bit of an anatomy lesson here. This is flexion. Forward fold. Flexion is when the trunk and the legs get closer together. Okay, or the joint gets closer together. So this is flexion, the joint's closing in, and extension is when it moves away. So flexion for the spine, extension is when it arches away. So think cobra is extension, camel is extension, flexion, extension. It also goes into lateral flexion, side bending. So the spine goes this way, it goes this way, it goes that way, but it also goes into rotation. Okay, so the spine twists, but of those as well. So it can go into flexion, so I'm bending down to touch my toe, and rotation. It can turn around at the same time. Okay. So it usually can go into flexion and rotation. This is when people do little injuries to themselves. Oh, I'm going to tie up my shoelace. Oh, and then I'm going to go and pick up that off the floor at the same time. So the spine has done a few different things. So it goes into flexion and rotation. It rarely goes into extension in another movement, but it can also go into lateral flexion and deep flexion, where you go onto the side. So for those reasons, the spine can go into spasms, and that's where people will do things like discs. So usually when we have a disc problem, it's usually L4, L5, the lower part of the back. It's usually what we call those bulging discs. Then some of the other spinal or back things are we can get fusion. So many of the vertebrae can clog or stick together. So therefore they don't move individually, they move as a chunk. Yeah. And then we can have what we call, I was going to say like thoracic immobility, which means that there is this rigidity, this stiffness to the movement. This is what we're going to work through. So we're going to work through stretching, we're going to work through strengthening to improve our mobility, and all of those sorts of things should help to ease off things like pain and all the rest of it. So let's get started. We'll come sit and we'll go through a little bit of pranayama first of all. This is all very low-lying stuff, so if you're a hands-free kind of person, this class will be awesome for you. Okay, let's start. A couple of little breaths gets us going. Inhale through the nostrils and exhale through the nostrils. As we take the breath in, channel the breath all the way down to the bottom or our lower lobes of the lungs. Fill the lungs to the top, to their fullest capacity. Feel the expansion that you can bring into your chest and your belly. On the exhale, we empty all of the breath, mindful of not leaving or letting any of the breath sort of linger or sit in the bottom of the lungs. It's a full breath in and a complete breath out. Time just to notice how slow and how smooth each breath can be. No jerkiness, no stop start. A beautiful, soft, smooth, steady, even breath, both through for the inhalation and your exhalation. So let's keep this natural flow, rhythm, and lengthen speed to the breath. Wiggle fingers and toes, just gently and softly bringing our awareness back to the room. Opening the eyes when you're ready. And what we want to take with us today, if we do have them at our disposal, and I probably should have said this as we started, blocks, a strap, or I don't know, a towel, whatever you've got. We only needed to do a hamstring stretch, and a bolster if you've got one, or something that you can extend over, because they talked to us about back extension. Come down to the floor. Let's just pop this little guy off to the side here. Yep, right. Let's go knees to chest. Now, we all love this, particularly if that lower back is feeling really tight. I will often describe this for you, and I'll say to you, this is like child's pose. This is upside down child's pose. So knees to chest, and the hands here are just subtly pressing the tops of the thighs and down into the belly. So in this one, why does this always feel so good, and why is this such a good stretch for the back? It's because it helps to lengthen mostly the lumbar, those lower vertebrae of the spine here. That can do it more so as we get the knees tucked in deep into the belly. The more that we get this tailbone lifting off the floor, the more the stretch and the more obvious it is into the lower part of the back. We can also take legs up and scoot these hands underneath and get a deeper pull, so which will give us more obvious stretch into the lower back. I must admit, I do like this one. When I have, not that I can now because I'm not allowed to, but when pre-COVID, one of the stretches I will always do with my personal training clients, particularly after we've done some kind of weight training, is that I will bring their knees into their chest. I come over the top of them and I press their knees down. It's a greater stretch than what you can get you yourself, and it's you just see their little their eyes roll in the back of their heads because it's very blissful. Getting that beautiful stretch. You'll know even in class, sometimes when I would do hands on, I will come and put my hands onto your lower back and draw the lower back down. When you were saying child's pose, again, all of this is to elongate, lengthen the lower back muscles. Now, a little rock side to side, that's always nice for the back because it's like a little gentle massage. I think of this one being very much like a rolling pin, this big long rolling pin either side of the spine, and I get to go side to side into this one, left and right. As a beautiful warm-up. It's a really nice way after a day when you've been on your back's been aching. And then bring the legs back into center, release, hold on to your knees, keep the knees together and draw some circles. So what have I got in store for us over the next few weeks? Today was really to get us just getting some movement into the back, some really nice gentle movements into the back. Progression from here will be to bring in some of our balls to do some fascial release as well. So you'll see the balls come in. We'll use the strap. take the legs the other way when you're ready. But what I'll also do is educate us a little bit more about things related to the back or back issues that we don't always see as back issues, but they are little culprits that can lead us to having back problems, back pain. As the knees come back into the center, press the knees away from you, holding onto the two knees. Draw individual circles here with the knees away from you, out, around, scoot, and bring them back together. Away from you, apart, around, and come back together. So now we start to almost get to like all facets of the lower part. You can see we're not moving the upper part of the back. Change direction. Good, one more for me here. As the knees come back to center, lower the soles of the feet flat onto the floor, bring the arms back so that they sit parallel to the sides. Pelvic curling, articulation of the spine, getting this movement. Exhale to tilt the pelvis back, press the feet into your floor and curl on up. Hold the lift for an inhale. Ease down on the exhale, slow and steady, one notch at a time. All the way down into the mat until we rock back into the lower back and then across the back of the pelvis. We tilt the pelvis back to enable the tailbone to lift off the floor first, to stretch the lower back. Now if you don't take a pelvic curl this way, what will happen then coming down slowly, letting the tailbone up right to those last moments, what will happen is that you're basically just using your glutes and your hamstrings to lift you up and down. Okay? The spine's not moving. This way, as we tilt back, it's slow and methodical, and it's actually creating space and movement between each vertebrae. One more the same way. You'll often find that when, if you've had any back issues or you've got even rehabilitation for backs, physios will always give this, they call it bridging. Do one more of these, and then we're going to make a little change on the way down. So you'll come up what I call straight, but on the way down, you're going to give me this sort of like a snake in a zigzag side to side, and you're going to feel, so your hips are going to sort of swing out to the side, and you'll zigzag your way down into the floor, and then you'll come back onto the mat. You'll tilt back, you'll peel slowly away, and you'll zigzag on the way down. So like a little snake shimmying from side to side. So what we're trying to do here is you'll keep going, but it's to get this idea that the spine is sort of going like, so it's shifting out, 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 out. So we call it zigzagging. When you come down after the one that you're working on, we'll zigzag on the way up now. So tilt the pelvis back, and once you get the spine to start to come off, zigzag on the way up. Don't worry that the legs are moving. And then come down straight. Zigzag on the way up. Tilt back first, get a little lift, and zigzag, and zigzag. Shift, 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 shift to height. And ease down. Okay, one more zigzagging going up. And then ease all the way down one vertebrae at a time. Now, we are going to come up and take one bridge. Okay, this is held. We're going to wriggle the arms underneath. We'll work through the soles of the feet pressing down to the floor, the hips lifting up towards us, and we'll draw the abdominals in. So one of the things we are going to start to look at in this week 1 and in preceding weeks is the importance of strengthening the core to support the back. Okay. So not all back conditions, shall we call them, is because we have a dodgy back, that we have a weak back. In many cases, we have a weak front. A weak front means that that poor old back has to do the work that the front's decided it won't do. Sloppy, lazy abs means bad backs. Poor core means bad backs. Trust me. I do know. Not from experience, personal experience, but from training experience. All the people that I train, all my Pilates people that I train, I can tell you, as soon as they switch on their core, oh, my back doesn't hurt now when I'm doing that exercise. Yes. Ease out when you're already slowly. Okay, here we go. This one, collect your block or a prop, whatever you might be using. We get to use this to support us, to take us into bridge in a supported position. Whatever formation or structure works best for you, it is purely personal. It could just be 2 blocks together, it could be one super high. What feels right, what gives you a good height to allow us to stay in this elevated position. So this is giving us some movement and some stretching to the back, but we don't have to work, we can pull the legs out of the equation. So it's a nice sort of supported position. We'll just hang in here for a little moment. And we'll just relax the body into it. We're going to stay here on your props, whatever it might be. You'll take the left leg to go long. You'll bring your right knee in. Okay. And if you find that you've propped up too high, that's okay, change it all. Go down a few notches if you need to. What we want to do here is stretch now, you should be able to feel it, across the front of this left thigh, this what we call this left hip flexor. Okay. Why would we be bothered to stretch the front of this leg when we're talking about the back? So you can keep pressing the thigh down into the belly, stay with me on this, pull the toes back, press it out through the heel, keep anchoring the back of the left thigh down to the floor. Because when your hip flexors are really tight, I spoke to you about what is flexion and what is extension. So when these muscles across the front of the thigh become overactive, this happens when we walk a lot, when we maybe ride a bike because there's a lot of hip flexion that goes on, when the knees constantly bend and straighten, when we sit for long periods of time, the hip flexors either get overworked, overstimulated, okay, and they become very tight. And as they become tight, they will pull on your pelvis. Okay, and change sides. When they pull on your pelvis, because they come up and they attach up here onto this bony structure, and they pull onto your pelvis, they change the position of your pelvis. And because we were designed so intricately down to the nth degree when we are in perfect symmetry and perfect alignment, we are a very efficient and a very pain-free piece of machinery. However, it only takes the smallest increment for your pelvis to be, let's call it, out, and it will play havoc on your back. And it can be out on so many levels: tipping forward, tipping back, tilting, rotating. Anyone who goes to a chiro, your chiro will say to you, oh my gosh, look at your pelvis. I'm looking at it, it's tipped here, it's rotated there, I need to reset that here. They do a lot of work trying to align the pelvis back, and then a little domino effect, everything else comes back into place. Alrighty, so you should feel this sort of pull down through the front of the thigh, opening up. This more space between here and here, more space between trunk and legs, extremities. Alright, slide that right foot in, bring the left one back onto the floor. Give me little tippy toes to get out. Now we have been here for a while, so you're not going to rush down. You will take your time very, very slowly and ease the spine back into the floor. And down. Alright, feet will go flat onto the mat. Take your time to give me some little knee floats. Those knees don't have to be on the floor, but they are floating side to side here, left to right. As those knees float side to side, return the right leg long, the left knee in. Okay, here we go into some rotation that the spine does love. Right hand onto the knee, roll the knee across. I'm going to suggest that you might even prop it up just to start with. Let's not put too much load into the lower back, but we can definitely keep the left shoulder onto the floor and let this right leg sit here in this elevated position. The head can turn to the left if that feels comfortable. The neck, if not, it's all good. You can keep looking up there towards the ceiling, towards the sky. I get to see the sky out at this end of town. Nice. So the only way that the back gets any kind of stretch in this pose is for us to keep that left shoulder down. And I always think of this a little bit like that sponge ringing effect. We're twisting the spine. If we don't and we flip it off the floor, yes, we keep getting that knee down towards the floor, but basically it's no different to us just doing a little, just a little roll. Okay, it's just us being on our side, okay, as opposed to it actually physically twisting the spine. As we take the weight off this left leg, we'll assist it to come back, thread it down the mat, right knee will draw in, and bring it on across, over to your left, prop will support. Help that knee find its way back to the center. Good. Place those feet back onto the floor. We will need our strap collected or anything you've got, won't matter. Could be if you've got a TheraBand, grab that. Let's go right leg. We're into hamstring stretch. You can pop this underneath your back, like sometimes we do. You can hold on to the loop. Do as you wish. Why am I stretching the hamstrings? Same old story. The hamstrings coming down and attached to the sit bones, to the pelvis, the pelvic rim, the pelvic girdle. And tight hamstrings can, if you think, oh, if I was standing upright, my hamstrings were really tight, they'd actually be pulling on the pelvis, and tight hamstrings can mean that the pelvis will then want to tilt back. You can imagine, I always suggest, for me, I'm a visual girl, I've got to picture it, and I imagine that there's two little strings on that end of these hamstrings and they're pulling them down. So what would happen? If I pull too tight, my back flips back. Okay, it's low. Similarly, if my quadriceps were too tight, the opposite muscle, too tight, it would want to pull, like the hip flexors do, pull my body forward. Yeah. So we get to learn here that, and I'm sure you know this, because I tell it to you, it's not always about the back. Not always about the back. Down go those toes, up goes the heel. And let's switch those sides over. Our left foot will slip in, our right leg eases down. Let's go toes down, heel up, pull on that foot, press up through that heel. Keep thinking to yourself about alignment. Alignment was Monday's theme, wasn't it, in class? Monday's theme was Mindful Monday. We talked about the importance of always being very present in our practice, and alignment is being very mindful in our practice, checking, oh, my knee and my ankle, they are stacked, rather than just going through the motions. Now I'm going to stay with this looped over the left foot. Won't matter if you've got a left foot or a right foot. But I'm going to start to instigate some stretch into our hamstrings, but also ask us to use some core, some belly. The more that you hold the strap, the more you're going to help yourself. But as we take a breath in, we prepare, and as we breathe out, you're going to start to straighten the leg, lift the head and the shoulders, draw the navel into the spine, use your core, come up to sit. Stay here, breathe in, come down on your breath out. So think pelvic curling on the way down. I'm not going to come down in a boom. I'm going to control. I've started to roll this pelvis back. I'm going to go vertebrae, 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 vertebrae. Back of my head. Inhale. Exhale. Draw into that core. Pull into the belly. Use it, use it, use it, use it, use it to curl up. To sit. Inhale here. Use that spine, so stretching the back, round the back. Control down. Let the leg gradually come up with you. It goes back into that hamstring stretch. We'll do one more. Head, shoulders, more tummy, more tummy, more tummy. Less hold. Inhale. I'll start to creep up my little mat, so I'll come down. Exhale, slow and smooth. When you get down to the floor, switch this over to the other leg. Let's take it away again. Inhale. There's your stretch. Exhale. Here's some front body work. Remember I talked about the importance of strengthening the front of the body to support and protect the back. Inhale, exhale, head on down. we come down, I'm just going to get my bolster ready with me. It's very distracting facing this way because I get to see what the people are doing out there on the beach, and it's 2 feet in. Getting my focus. Double hamstring stretch. Now, as you start to bring the legs in closer, we're pulling on that strap and we're lifting the spine away from the floor. We can sense, just like we drew the knees into the chest, we're getting that lower back stretch here. Now just ease back, bend your knees, take your strap off, take your bolster if you have one, or you could even use blocks. Let's just wriggle this guy underneath the back. I'm not giving myself enough room with my little plant in the way, but that's okay. Alright, so I'm going to go a little bit higher to elevation. Hopefully, can you see me? I'm just realizing that you probably can't. Because I have so much room here. Not. Alright, there we go. That's it. Now I've got some elevation and I'm getting now more stretch into this lower part of the back. As you know, this is preparation for going further and further over into plow. To keep the stretch, we allow the length to stay or remain here in the backs of our legs. So they are nice long straight legs. And then you're welcome to stay here, or if you would like to continue over into plow, lose the strap and then continue to go up and over. Full plow, as you can see through, obviously, if you can see my, or you'll sense yourself if you're in it, that we're really moving and opening up the vertebrae of the spine. Your feet do not need to be over here on the floor. So you could still do this with slightly elevated feet. They don't have to go all, as I said, all the way over. You're still getting a lot of nice stretch into the lower back. You can just listen to your own body and come out when you are comfortable. Feel that it's the right place to go and do another one, you're again most welcome to attempt a second one or a variation of what you were doing just before, be it the strap around those feet, if you want to have a little play around, yes you can. can take a little knee float when you're ready here. And then allowing the knees, when you've done that little floating like action, just to stop, and we can draw the knees into the chest here. So we've done, and we're just going to hang in here for a moment. We've done quite a bit of flexion, so that's what it was when we went into plow. Remember, I explained that was when we close the body down, it's going into flexion. So chest and thigh, this is flexion. We call it hip flexion. They're always named after a joint, so hip flexion. This would be elbow flexion, elbow extension. They're named after the joint. We need to do a little bit more extensive work. When you're ready to come on up, either rock or roll over to the side, extension for us today is going to be using the bolster. I'm going to bring it across our mat. I'm going to head over into that little fish pose. You don't have to use a bolster. You are most welcome to use, if you had a roller, you could use a roller. If you had a little towel, yep, you could use a towel. We curl or extend over. So my bolster is really high, so I'm going to put a little bit fat bolster. I'm going to put my head onto the log as I extend over in this one. You could have, some people might have their arms on their bolster or on their big rolled up blanket. You could have the arms out wide, which would obviously then add to a nice, beautiful chest stretch. I'm a big advocate for back extension work. So you'll always notice in class, there'll be maybe some kind of cobra or dancing warrior. It could be half camel, it could be up dog, mangrove mountain fingers, fish. There will always be some kind of back extension, because in today's modern society, we do a lot of flexion. We do a lot of bowing forward. We do too much going forward and not enough going back. And I always, when I talk to my one-on-one clients who might have any sort of back issues, I remind them that what it's like, or what it would be like if we were to even get a steel rod and continue to bend the steel rod constantly downways, like flexion. The rod will break no matter across that same line that you're bending it at. Your spine is like this metal rod. The more you keep bending it in the same spot, the more it will want to break. Same kind of concept. So we need to strengthen it up the other way. We need to strengthen it in this capacity, in extension. And again, I'll tell you that a lot of people, that when I give them this exercise just here, they'll just say to me, oh my gosh, my back feels so much better. Because we're now opening up the front line of your vertebral column. This way, the front of it's being opened. Okay. It's usually getting closed down. It's usually getting crushed. When you're ready to bring the arms onto your bolster or your prop, perhaps, press in, curl up, come up. Now it's time to replicate this by itself. We will do a fish pose. Back down, wriggle those arms underneath, so thinking bridge. Sitting on the arms. Now, whilst you could keep it like this, there isn't really much back extension. You could assist if you had some kind of towel to help you out. However, the real pose comes by trying to physically get that arched back again that we just had. Press in, lift up, tilt back, soften the crown of the head down towards the floor. Press into the arms,
not into the crown of your head. Work your shoulder blades together. Get them to meet, get them to touch, because this is about your back working. Okay. Your back isn't stretching here. Your front stretching. Your back is working. You know, as we come out, press back through these arms, lift the head up, lower back into your mat, walk the feet in, lift up. Yep, out come those arms. Give me some little wide legs when you eat, gentle little knee floats. No rush, no fast, just slow. And as we float side to side, and just getting that movement back into the hips and into that lower bit of that lower back. So one of the best ways to work the back in yoga practice is in extension. Bringing the shoulder blades together works them. Yeah. Separating them like in cat stretches them. Yeah. All right, bring your knees into your chest. Come take a rock up to sit or roll over to your side. We'll come cross-legged. Do not worry which leg is in front. We get to change. Hands to the floor. Come forward. With a straight back. Okay, don't worry about this rounded back. If you can only get to here with a straight back and you can feel that it's releasing or opening up through the back of the body, awesome. If you think, you know what, I feel like I'm like this and a bit of a creaky old stiff rigid structure, get this mat, give it a little roll. Even for me that feels better. My back, my lower back has been a little bit niggly, but that's life for me. And mine's obviously an injury that was sustained, but and will always be with me. However, I learned to manage it, and I learned that with the right stretches, it's very much bearable. It's always there. It's always in the background. I always know that there's pain there, but it's very much maintained by doing all of these beautiful little stretches. So we talked about how backs love twisting and love rotation. So here it is, I'm in flexion. We talked about this, we flex, but we also flex and rotate. And we do have to obviously, in essence, be careful with this, because when backs tend to, whenever we see a bulging disc, it's usually happened out of flexion and rotation. So that's what we just did then. We flex and now we're twisting, we're rotating. Good. Take those hands, you're going to inhale and walk and stack up the spine. Left hand will go onto the right knee. Right hand will go around behind us. Keep length in the spine, but continue to twist around. As we keep the twist, release the hand around behind the back if it's possible. Come see if you can hold on to the inside of the leg. Breathe in as we release, come out of the twist. Switch the legs over. And come through the front again. rotation, we'll head off to the left. So what this also does is, as we come into this left twist or left turn, it will open up through the side of the trunk. I find too that if we can open up through this side thoracic, so this is all still part of the back, the thoracic. Okay, so the thoracic is obviously, it's here in the front, but the thoracic runs around our back as well. Breathe into walk in and we'll go into the twist. That it can also relieve a lot of back issues as well, because now, and I have been talking about it lately, about this compression that can happen of the rib cage. The ribs can all compress and compact down onto each other, which also happens as we do this. So to create space in between each of these little ribs, I think I probably told you, bring that arm around the back, but when I was in physio for, well, it was back, and then it was because I tore the hamstring, that they used to get in underneath all these ribs and try and create space and like literally dig their fingers into my poor little intercostal muscles, and I felt like I had a round of boxing with Jeff Fennick or someone. I was tears to your eyes. Okay, so inhale, let go of all of this, and allow the spine to softly. If you're propped up like me, we get to come over onto all fours, hands and knees. All right, we all know this one. Easy peasy. Cat-cow, hands underneath the shoulders. But be really mindful of the movement in the spine, because it is really a pose about spinal articulation. Chin, chest. That's the first part of the spine starts to move, all the back. Then start to round it more, and it only rounds because you started to tuck your tail under and you started to pull your belly up and in. Take it just as slowly as you bring each of the vertebrae, so actually feel and sense the vertebrae moving and changing, rounding, rounding, rounding. The belly drops and the back extends. Come think that back extension you did. Come and think about fish pose. Your chin draws up towards the roof. Your tail naturally swings up. You don't have to pull it up. It'll swing up because you sent the spine the other way. Curl slowly into cat. Head rounds. It all sinks together. The belly naturally has to pull up away from the floor now because your back is rounding up to the roof. So what happens here? The spine is being stretched, but your belly is being worked. Then we go the other way so that we now let the belly stretch so that the back can work. Remember, how do we assist the back to additionally work? We let the shoulder blades come towards each other and draw inwards. Like they're getting closer to your spine. Round the back to stretch it, to work the opposite side, to work the front, and then take it the other way, inhale. Because remember, we inhale because we're opening up, and we work the back on the inhale. We stretch the back on the exhale. We work the back on the inhale. Alrighty, set the back into a flat back. I want you to think that you're in a bit of a freestyle-y kind of dance, and you can just do whatever you want in terms of your spine. Take time here, almost go back to Mindful Monday, and as you wriggle around into any kind of formation that you're moving your spine in, do you get to any part where you go, oh, that really is tight here, and if I hang out here, it's going to give it a really nice stretch. Or if I move my arms a little bit more, like, oh wow, that really helps. For me, I'm going to just say, I'm talking out loud, this helps my lower back, because mine is quadratus lumborum, this muscle down through this lower back, and that just basically just jams and holds up. So for me, anything that gives me that kind of stretch, that's beautiful for me. Okay, but you might say, you know what, for me, it's my upper back, I need to get that rounded more and really drop my chin to my chest and really find, it doesn't have to be, I guess what I'm saying to you is, it doesn't have to be textbook version here. This is what it looks like when I open up that book. It's supposed to look like this. The hands are supposed to be shoulder width. No, if the hands stretches your back more by having your hands together or wider apart, then again, what feels right for you. This is a little freestyle number where you get to make up your own pose based on, say, cat, cow, childsy kind of stuff. Wherever you might be, see if you can take some really nice long breaths for me here. In big inhales, big, long, soothing, relaxing exhales. Very, very slowly, slide those hands in. Ease yourself up. Get ready. It's time to relax. Wow, that went quick, didn't it? If your back ever niggles whilst you are in Shavasana, use a bolster. Underneath the backs of the knees. Use elevation underneath the back of the knees because it tilts the pelvis back. You have more of a flat back. That means longer lower back muscles. When your back arches away from the floor, you have short lower back muscles, and that pulls and tightens them. So this will be much nicer for you. start to just draw or bring our awareness back here. Simply allow the feet to move and the hands to move. So we walk the feet in, we bring ourselves to roll onto our side. Allow yourself to continue up into sitting. Just use the hands to push and bring our way up. And as we come up into seated pose, Sukhasana, this is called handful meters at the heart center. And here we get to finish and honor our practice by finishing with Namaste. Namaste. Happy Hump Day, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I will see you. What's today? I keep losing track of days. I'll see you Friday. Friday yoga, 9:30 in the studio. Saturday morning back into the studio as well for some sun salutations on Saturday. Friday, yin yang, half half. Alrighty, awesome. Have a beautiful evening. I will see you very soon.